And I want to begin with 2 words. I'm sorry.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for when news reporters, journalists, and TV anchors seriously impacted their careers for whatever reasons.
Another case of open mouth, insert foot, lose job.
Number 10, Brian Williams.
I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft.
Brian Williams was a high-profile managing editor and anchor for NBC Nightly News. But in 2015, his rep took a big hit due to allegations concerning his coverage of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. At first, Williams claimed he had been in a helicopter in Iraq that had to land after another chopper was nearly struck by an RPG.
When the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG. Our traveling NBC News team was rescued, surrounded, and kept alive by an armored mechanized platoon from the U.S. Army 3rd Infantry.
Over the years, his story changed to his aircraft needing to land after being hit. Soldiers who were there at the time contested the newer versions of Williams' story. While the anchor eventually apologized for exaggeration, the damage was done, and he was suspended and eventually moved to a lesser position.
After 28 years of Peacock logos on much of what I own, it is my choice now to jump without a net into the great unknown.
Number 9, Ivory Hecker.
Before we get to that story, I want to let you, the viewers, know that Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers.
It's not often a reporter purposely tanks their career live on TV. But in 2021, that's what Ivory Hecker did on the local news affiliate Fox 26 Houston. On the air, Hecker launched into a rant that Fox had been what she called muzzling her and other reporters about topics she wanted to cover.
From what I'm gathering, I am not the only reporter being subjected to this. I am going to be releasing some recordings about what goes on behind the scenes at Fox.
She stated she would release secret recordings made with the right-wing activist group Project Veritas. These revolved around promoting the disproven hydroxychloroquine as a COVID-19 treatment. After being initially suspended for her on-air outburst, unsurprisingly, Hecker was fired.
I found a nonprofit journalism group called Project Veritas. It's going to help put that out tomorrow, so tune into them.
Number 8, Ken Rosado.
All right, Heather, thank you. 541. Still ahead on Eyewitness News this morning. New guidelines issued for New York educators.
Having joined New York's WABC TV in 2013 as a reporter, the Emmy Award-winning Ken Rosado eventually became the channel's anchor for Eyewitness News this morning. Yet, after decades in the business, in 2023, Rosado found himself in hot water. Reportedly, he was heard calling co-host Shirlene Alicott an insult on an open microphone. While the show was off-air and the audio wasn't broadcast to the viewing audience, it was heard by production staff in the studio. There were allegations the comment was offensive.
No matter the racism and the prejudice that I experienced, because I experienced it.
However, Rosado's representatives denied this to be the case. Regardless, WABC TV moved quickly and fired the anchor.
Heather?
Yes.
What do you have for us?
We're not looking too good.
Number 7, Aaron Calvin.
Abandoned by the Register. That's what former Des Moines Register reporter Aaron Calvin told BuzzFeed that he feels like after being fired from the paper earlier this week.
It started with a man named Carson King in the background of ESPN's College Game Day coverage, holding a jokey sign with his Venmo stating he needed beer money. After a big response, King started raising money for the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital and finished his campaign with millions in donations. During the fame, reporter Aaron Calvin did a profile on King for the Des Moines Register, in which he mentioned the fundraiser's problematic social media account from years before when he was a teen.
But then it started to fall apart. A reporter at the Des Moines Register found insensitive tweets King wrote 8 years ago when he was 16, reportedly based off a Comedy Central show, Tosh.0. Remember that show?
After making the post and King's apology, Calvin was harassed, had his life threatened, and his own potentially problematic tweets parsed. Eventually, the Des Moines Register fired Calvin.
The latest twist, that reporter had his own old insensitive tweets and now has been fired.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Number 6, Lydia Cummings.
It's a photo that seems to show ordinary people lending a hand to a flood victim. Or does it?
It's usually not great when a reporter becomes a viral meme. But that's what happened to reporter Lydia Cummings in 2016 as she covered a flood in Puebla, Mexico for TV Azteca. Taken by a photographer at the scene, Cummings was hoisted up in the air by two locals, seemingly to avoid her shoes getting wet.
Lydia Cummings is a 24-year-old reporter who hitched a ride with this couple while reporting on devastating floods in Mexico.
After the image got out, she was photoshopped into all sorts of situations. However, TV Azteca was less than impressed with the social media fame. They fired Cummings for disrespectfully using local residents in a trying time.
Why doesn't she take off her shoes instead? Another post, you would think that wearing maybe rain boots in a flooded area would be common sense.
In an interview afterward, Cummings claimed the residents wanted to show her their elderly disabled neighbor and offered to carry her, which she briefly agreed to. Number 5, Rick Sanchez.
I don't mind Sanchez at all until today, where he really stepped in it.
After joining CNN in 2014 as a reporter, Rick Sanchez quickly rose up the ranks as a news anchor, even getting his own program with Rick's List. But in 2010, that vanished when he appeared on SiriusXM's radio program Stand Up with Pete Dominic.
Pete has actually worked for Jon Stewart in the past, so he's defending Stewart obviously throughout.
Angered by reports about his show's time slot being replaced, and with Jon Stewart for comedic jabs at him, Sanchez called Stewart a bigot. Sanchez then claimed CNN and other networks discriminated against him and made comments about Stewart's ethnic background and the news business. Very unsurprisingly, Sanchez was soon fired by CNN and later joined Fox.
You were the host of that show on a competing network, by the way, and you kind of introduced me into this whole thing. And
look what happened from there.
Number 4, Marley Rivera.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know you speak English now. Oh, you started speaking English. I'm sorry.
As a reporter for ESPN and the Spanish language channel ESPN Deportes, Marley Rivera was one of the biggest names in sports journalism. After all, she was included in the Sports Illustrated article, The 30 Most Influential Hispanics in Sports in 2017. But in 2023, that reputation took a hit. Before a New York Yankees game, freelancer Yvonne Gaetti tried to interview Aaron Judge, but Rivera argued with Gaetti that she had already scheduled an interview with the MLB star. The face-off was recorded, which included Rivera using an expletive while insulting Gaetti.
Excuse me, did you record that, right? I wasn't talking about you.
To make it worse for Rivera, Gaetti is married to the MLB Vice President of Communications, John Blundell. While Rivera apologized, Gaetti reportedly rejected it, and Rivera was soon fired by ESPN.
Rivera would admit she and her fellow reporter have had disagreements in the past.
Number 3, Chris Cuomo.
You know, the biggest media story this weekend. It's the firing of Chris Cuomo from this network, CNN.
Prominent anchor and journalist Chris Cuomo joined CNN in 2013 and eventually got his own program, Cuomo Primetime. And with his brother Andrew Cuomo being the governor of New York, he had some pretty good connections. Well, that was until multiple misconduct allegations came out about the governor.
And a former female colleague has now come forward accusing Chris Cuomo of sexual misconduct. He denies any wrongdoing.
While Cuomo publicly stated he couldn't talk about the story due to his close connection, reportedly behind the scenes, the anchor and licensed attorney advised his brother on dealing with the scandal and used his sources to gather information on the accusers. After being briefly suspended by CNN during an investigation, Cuomo was let go by the network in 2021.
A CNN spokesperson saying overnight, when the new allegation came to us this week, quote, we took them seriously and saw no reason to delay taking immediate action.
Number 2, Megyn Kelly.
It seemed okay. Well, I was wrong, and I am sorry.
After leaving Fox, Megyn Kelly became one of the highest paid anchors when she joined NBC in 2017. And one of her main tasks was hosting her own talk show, Megyn Kelly Today. Yet in 2018, one segment in particular caused a massive scandal for Kelly. As the panel discussed the topic of offensive blackface, Kelly stated when she was a child, that was okay as long as people were playing a character. She then defended the actions of Luann de Lesseps, who was criticized when cosplaying as Diana Ross.
People said that was racist. And I don't know, I thought like, who doesn't love Diana Ross? She wants to look like Diana Ross for one day. I don't know how like that got racist on Halloween.
Days later, Kelly's show was canceled. In early 2019, she was dropped by NBC, but also received the remaining $30 million from her contract.
Parties have resolved their differences, and Megyn Kelly is no longer an employee of NBC.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Matt Lauer.
Lauer was scheduled to host the Rockefeller Center tree lighting. As you guys know, he was not there last night.
After joining NBC in 1992, Matt Lauer would become one of the network's most recognizable and marketable faces. On top of being an anchor for the Today Show, Matt Lauer also hosted the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and the Olympic Games opening ceremonies. Then in 2017, NBC received a detailed report from a female colleague accusing Lauer of harassment that began during the coverage of the 2014 Winter Olympics in Russia.
NBC News can report 2 additional women came forward to the network after the news initially broke.
After an investigation by the networks, they fired the host from his hosting and reporting duties. And not long after, further allegations came out about Lauer during his time at NBC.
And we were told some very shocking and disturbing stories, which are a stark contrast to the Matt Lauer that everybody has known for over 20 years.
What reporter or host do you think impacted their career the most? Let us know in the comments.
NBC News fired Lauer roughly 24 hours after an employee made a complaint against the anchor.